Hello everyone, and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. And today I'm checking out another dried product intended to spruce up your instant noodles. This one is simply called Ramen Toppers. Before we get started, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content. Just like the Ramen Bae products that I reviewed recently, this is a supplement that you can buy online that contains an assortment of dried vegetables and proteins that you can cook with your noodles. And yes, you can buy dried vegetables for that exact purpose from other companies for much less money, we'll get to that in a second, but you're getting everything in one convenient package here, along with some pretty interesting proteins. So speaking of buying things, let's talk about Ramen Toppers and where to buy it. Amazon and Etsy only. And so far, it looks like this is only available in the USA, unless it is sold under a different name elsewhere. It's made in California, according to the label, so if you don't like that Ramen Bae sources their ingredients from China, here you go. And that's really all the info I have about them. They list a website on the label here, www.ramentoppers.com, but it doesn't currently exist, if it ever did. At the time of this filming, this 5.64 ounce container, when it is in stock, costs $22.99 on Amazon and $23.99 on Etsy, both with free shipping. These go in and out of stock all the time. I have an Amazon plugin for Chrome that shows this popping back in stock a couple times a week for a few hours at a time, so if you want to buy this, keep checking diligently or set up your own stock tracker. An Amazon reviewer also mentioned possibly finding this in a Los Angeles-based store called Japangelis. No idea how reliable that info is, but check that out if you're in the area. Now let's talk about what's in here and what you do with it, and for that I'm going to open it up. So check this out. This contains Chashu pork and narutomaki fish cake, in addition to peas, cabbage, carrots, mung beans, and green onions. The ingredients also list soy sauce, sake, ginger, rice vinegar, garlic powder, salt, and pepper, and I'm assuming most of that is specifically to season the Chashu pork. It dawns on me that if you're a newbie to ramen, you might not know what Chashu and narutomaki are, so let me cover that real quick. This pork is called Chashu, and it's the sliced pork you usually get in your bowl when you go to a ramen restaurant. This is typically made from a rolled up slab of pork belly, which is marinated or braised in aromatics, usually seared on its sides, and then when it's sliced, a lot of the time the restaurant will give it an extra sear all over with a cooking torch, although not always, depending on the intended texture and presentation. This white thing with a pink swirl is a type of fish cake called narutomaki, and I've seen a lot of ramen newbies asking what this is when they go to their first restaurant, which is fine, you may not have ever seen this before. Basically, a fish, usually pollock, is made into a paste called surimi, formed into a tubular mold and steamed so that it solidifies. Then it's sliced and put into your ramen. And the pink swirl in the middle is just food coloring. It doesn't taste like anything. Narutomaki usually has a supple texture and a very mildly sweet fishy flavor, kind of like imitation crab stick, which is also technically a fish cake. I saw a fairly prolific YouTuber last year who doubled down on saying this is a radish, which no, it's clearly not. It's nothing like a radish in appearance, texture, or flavor. Anyway, I hope that helps those of you who weren't aware of these ingredients. So, looking inside the canister, after I clear out these top few pieces of pork here, you're going to notice that there are a lot of veggies in here and not a lot of the good stuff. Here, you can kind of see it better from this side here. So that's an automatic ding in my score for the price versus quantity. $23 for less than 6 ounces is not a great value, especially compared to $25 for 14 ounces from Ramen Bae, but to be fair, you're getting pork and full-size fish cake here. You might be willing to pay more for less due to the country of origin being the USA, but fair warning that the price and quantity of protein here is going to factor into my review. Now to cook with this, all you need to do is toss however much of this you want into boiling or hot water for 4 minutes to rehydrate. So you could throw this in your cup noodles while it steeps, or into your boiling pot of water if it's a regular pack of noodles. Super convenient. And since the pork and fish cake in here pair best with Japanese ramen, I thought I would use a pack of one of my favorite budget Japanese ramen flavors. Nissen Damae Black Garlic Oil Tonkotsu, which I reviewed way back in episode 14. And yeah, I know this is technically a Nissen Hong Kong variety, but it's still a Japanese-style tonkotsu ramen and should work very well with this. I figure if it works well with a budget ramen, it's going to work great with a fancier ramen like Marutai or Ichiran or something like that. A few months back, someone commented on this video to say the ramen looked boring. Well, here we go. This is about to not look boring. I will be right back. All right, here it is. Some of the chashu, narutomaki, and I made sure I got a bit of every single vegetable in here. So this is what it looks like when it rehydrates. There's your pea, green onions floating around, some carrots. Pretty cool, but of course the real test will be how all of this tastes, so let's go for it. All right, first off, you don't have to worry about this being spicy. It's not. Secondly, let's talk about the vegetables. Not great. The peas are still kind of hard, even though they boiled for 4 minutes. I'm thinking maybe 4 minutes is not the right amount of time for them. They should go a little longer. The corn is also kind of chewy and not great. Strange aftertaste. I don't really know how to describe it. Bear with me here while I look for something. Here we go. So you might have seen me eat that really pale, almost white thing earlier, and that was a carrot. And this is a slightly oranger carrot, but the problem with the carrots is that they're pretty mushy while the peas are still hard. Also, I have no idea why they're white, but that's not very appealing, is it? The green onions are fine, but enough about that. You want to know about the pork and the fish cake, right? So here's a piece of the pork. It's hard to tell from this, but it doesn't rehydrate very well. It's still pretty dry. It's got the texture of overdone pot roast. It's not very tender at all. And the flavor's a little gamey. Yeah, I've had shelf-stable chashu before from Ramen Talk, and it was pretty good compared to this. This is not very appealing, either in texture or flavor. Now, as far as the narutomaki goes, it's fine. It's sliced a little thicker than I've seen at restaurants, but the texture is about right and the flavor is good. So nothing to complain about there, aside from maybe you don't like your narutomaki this thick. I don't, but it's not a deal breaker. As for how this impacted the flavor of the tonkotsu broth, not extremely. It's definitely an enhancement, and it doesn't fundamentally change the flavor of the broth the way Ramen Bae's seafood mix does. So that's a plus. So there's a couple things to consider now beyond the flavor and the quality, giving this an overall score. First, as a negative, is the price. This is much more expensive by volume than Ramen Bae. Now, I'm not going to shit too much on a small business's price point because I'm sure this isn't cheap to make, but you have to consider your own budget too versus the amount of stuff in here, right? Second, as both a positive and a negative, is the inclusion of the chashu pork and the full-size narutomaki. I haven't seen any other dried ramen toppings that come with either one of those, and that's really cool. One of the downsides is that the pork is not very good, but one of the upsides is that the narutomaki is pretty good. So taking into consideration all of those things, flavor, quality, quantity, price, texture, and ingredients, sadly I think this only merits a 4 out of 10 as an overall score. It will pair nicely with just about any ramen you throw it into, but I personally can't get past the texture of the peas and the pork enough to really give this a wholehearted recommendation. So by and large, the question of buying and using ramen toppings largely comes down to, are you the type of person who already keeps these ingredients on hand and doesn't mind preparing them for when you want to jazz up your noodles, and you can forgive the textural issues? Or are you the type of person who will find this so convenient that it's worth spending money on? One of my friends literally can't find an Asian market near him that sells narutomaki at all, and so this is a viable option for someone like him. But if you have a decent Asian market nearby, you can buy a frozen tube of narutomaki for like $5. If you have a really decent Asian market, you might even be able to buy pre-cooked chashu. I have no opinion on whether or not that is better or worse than what's in here. So if you're someone who already has access to these ingredients, like you have a garden or you buy these ingredients fresh frequently, or even make your own homemade chashu, then Ramen Toppers is not for you. Objectively speaking, this is super convenient, even if it's pricey, but the proteins just aren't abundant and the quality is questionable. So with that, I am going to go eat the rest of this bowl of noodles, and while I may not personally buy Ramen Toppers again due to the texture of the pork, the high price, and the fluctuating availability, I will certainly make use of the rest of this container, and so should you if you can forgive the texture and if this interests you. Those of you with textural issues, maybe steer clear. Once again, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel because I buy all this stuff out of pocket and every little bit of support helps me out. I'll be back next time with more noodle reviews, and I'll always keep an eye out for more products like this. So I hope you'll join me next time on Noodle Journey.